One of the activities I enjoyed most was aiding young ladies with their homework struggles, especially those grappling with certain subjects. Sarah, a delightful girl, and I shared a strong bond. When she requested my help with her homework, I readily agreed, and together, we strolled to her house from school. I dedicated several evenings to assisting Sarah, earning gratitude and appreciation from her mother, Mrs. Thompson. On one Friday evening, upon arriving at Sarah's house, I discovered she had forgotten to mention her plans for a sleepover with a friend. Despite my initial disappointment, Mrs. Thompson graciously invited me in and prepared a meal for us, which I relished. During our conversation, Mrs. Thompson inquired if there was anything she could do for me, acknowledging Sarah's improved mood since receiving academic support. "It's fine, Mrs. Thompson. I find fulfillment in helping her and any struggling girl," I responded. She further asked if I had assisted other girls previously, to which I acknowledged mainly aiding them at school rather than in their homes. Curiously, Mrs. Thompson questioned my preference for assisting girls over boys. I admitted to finding it simpler to connect with girls and, truthfully, enjoying their company and the school uniform. Curious, Mrs. Thompson asked me what it was about the schoolgirl's uniform that I liked. I hesitated at first, but under her gentle prodding, I admitted that I particularly liked the blouse, shoes, socks, and the red plaid pleated skirt that the girls wore. Encouraged by her interest, I divulged that the girls also wore a half-slip, a bra, pantyhose, and regulation panties. Mrs. Thompson's hand crept towards my thigh, and as she inquired further about what the girls wore underneath their uniform, I found myself breathless and unable to resist her gentle touch. She suggested that I try on Sarah's old school uniform, assuring me that it would fit me. Excited and nervous, I allowed her to undress me and dress me in the uniform. After a quick bath and grooming session, I was adorned in the bra, panties, pantyhose, half-slip, blouse, tie, and Mary Jane shoes. Mrs. Thompson applied a bit of makeup, despite school rules, to complete the transformation. She then took pictures of me, promising not to show them to anyone unless I wanted her to. Feeling both embarrassed and thrilled, I was soon over her lap, receiving a playful spanking for being a naughty little girl. This scenario became a regular occurrence, and one evening, Mrs. Thompson took our play to a new level, deflowering me while I was dressed in the schoolgirl uniform. As Mrs. Thompson guided me through my first sexual experience, dressed in the schoolgirl uniform, I felt a mixture of excitement, fear, and arousal. Her experienced hands explored my body, teasing and tantalizing me in ways I had never imagined. She whispered naughty words in my ear, telling me how beautiful I looked in the uniform and how eager she was to take me to new heights of pleasure. I moaned and writhed under her touch, feeling a rush of desire coursing through me. As she undressed me slowly, revealing my youthful body beneath the uniform, I felt exposed and vulnerable, but also incredibly turned on. Mrs. Thompson's lips trailed kisses along my skin, igniting a fire within me that I had never known before. When she finally took me, it was a revelation. Her experienced fingers and mouth explored every inch of me, driving me to the brink of ecstasy and beyond. I cried out in pleasure, unable to contain the overwhelming sensations that washed over me. With each thrust, each moan, each gasp of pleasure, I felt myself being pushed to new limits of arousal. Mrs. Thompson knew exactly how to please me, how to make me scream with pleasure, and I surrendered myself completely to her expert touch. As we reached the peak of our passion, I felt a wave of intense pleasure wash over me, leaving me breathless and satisfied. Mrs. Thompson held me close, whispering words of affection and desire in my ear as we lay tangled together, spent and sated. In that moment, dressed in the schoolgirl uniform, I realized that I had discovered a new side of myself, a side that craved the touch of an experienced woman and the thrill of forbidden pleasure. And as Mrs. Thompson caressed me gently and assured me this secret will be between us, safe, forever,